4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique, say box breathing. Fantastic. Very good. Um, those are all really great examples, and we'll kind of get into some of them even. So if not all of you know all of the things, fear not. We will teach you like several, and the idea isn't that you like are always thinking about all the ones to do, but rather if there's one that resonates with you in particular, or it's like this is the one that I feel like I could really try more regularly in my life, and kind of have it be a go-to, right? Because in the moment you're not thinking about, okay, what are all my options for different like regulation practices. It's nice if we can have some like muscle memory. So to even practice some of these, like if you find one that you want to practice it sort of daily when you're not feeling stressed out or when you're feeling like a little bit stressed, and then you sort of have it in your muscle memory so that when you have a little bit more intense situation, it comes up more naturally and you don't have to like cognitively think about it as much. Because there's kind of this cool thing. So I can't see you, but if you want to do this on wherever you are, there's like a kind of a cool way to think about how our brains work in these moments. So if you have your hand up like this and we think about our brain, and like our wrist and our forearm is sort of like our brain stem. And then we have our thumb, which is like our limbic system and like our amygdala and our like feelings and emotions. And then we have our front brain, which is like where we do a lot of cognitive thinking, kind of more rational, right? Very simplistic, obviously, but just for our purposes today. And so when our emotion starts getting like really, really revved up, we flip our lid, right? Kind of maybe heard that expression, flip our lid. And it basically goes offline. All of this creativity and rational thinking, logical, it's gone. And so like our emotional system is just like reactive to whatever the situation is. So if we can keep our cognitive brain functioning, so we can have what are my like all of my options in this situation? How can I think creatively more than just a binary situation? What are like all the options, right? Um, we can get through these kind of moments of crisis just with a bit more integrity, kind of acting from how we want to be in the world, rather than just sort of that emotional reaction that can be harmful for ourselves and the relationship and things. So these nervous system regulation practices can kind of help us in these moments when we want to flip our lid to just keep that frontal brain working and keeping us in the present moment and be able to kind of handle a situation with a bit more grace. So, not that it's foolproof, right? It's just tools that we can try to add in as we stumble through life, right? Um, so like I said, you had some really good ideas there. We'll go through just a few. We'll start with some breathing ones, because our breathing is a cool way to really engage our system. Um, yes. Okay, so I am seeing that chat box. Sometimes emotional side is useful in a conversation. I really appreciate you saying that, because that's so, 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 so true. And I think being present with our emotions um, is really important always. And I think maybe just the distinction for our conversation now in this kind of short bit is just the difference between like honoring our emotions and being in the midst of them, which we'll talk about a bit kind of in the second half as well more, but more in terms of like emotional reactivity. So we're like lashing out, like we might be feeling shame, and so we want to like blame somebody else to discharge our like really like shame-filled negative emotions on other people. So it's more of like those the reactivity where we're really not thinking clearly. We're uh yeah, hopefully that kind of clears up a little bit. But yes, thank you for saying, because I don't want to have you hear me saying that emotions, we can't have emotions in our conversations because that is also really important. Yes. Ah, still no sound on that end. Well, shoot. Hopefully somebody can help with that, or um the recording later or something. All right. So thinking about some breathing techniques. Again, I can't see you, but I'm going to assume that you're going to practice these along with me. So hopefully you're in a space where you can have just a moment to do these things along with. I know it's easy to kind of multitask, but if we can have, at least for the practices of trying these things out and starting to see which ones resonate with you and which ones maybe don't resonate with you, you can practice them now and then take something with you later. So let's start with box breathing. That was one of the ideas that came up. Some of you will obviously know it already, but just to get everybody on board, because it's a really useful one. It's called box breathing because we breathe in like the shape of a box, essentially. So we breathe in for, let's say, 3 or 4 seconds, and then we hold it in, no breathing, and then we breathe it out for 4 seconds. And then we hold it out without breathing, just holding it out for 4 seconds. And if we're kind of starting to panic a bit or like a little bit more revved up, maybe it's 3 seconds, right? So the 4 isn't as important as is just like having the same amount of time for each side of the box. If we're feeling really relaxed, maybe we'll do 5 or 6 seconds each side. So it just kind of depends. The more we're starting to like panic a bit and our breathing can be harder to control. And if we find that trying to control our breathing, like by trying to hold it, like do each side longer than what we're really capable of in this moment, can kind of make us more panicked. So just like notice if you're only feeling like you can only do like 3 seconds on each side, that's perfect, right? Don't try to extend it out before you're ready because it can just lead you to feeling more anxious. So just kind of a heads up on that. But let's try that, right? So I'll do this fun little box on your screen as I'm doing it. And just think about we'll do 4 seconds, but if you want to do it in your own space with more or less, feel free to do so. So everyone, let's breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold it out. 2, 3, 4. We'll do it one more time. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold it out. 2, 3, 4. So you can do more times around than that, but even doing it 2 or 3 times is enough to sometimes kind of just start the process of calming down a little bit. So that's a really good one. Anytime actually that you hold or you have your breath go out for like a second or 2 longer than your in breath, is also more relaxing. Because when you think about like life, you don't ever want to be like super revved up, but you also don't want to be like super calm either. And so our breathing actually kind of regulates us a bit. Like when you think about our in breath, it's more of our energizing breath. Like if something surprises you, you're likely to go, right? You take that really sharp in breath, right? Like it's the more like energy to your brain breath. And then our I'm okay. You know, like it's your sigh, it's your out breath, it's what relaxes you, right? So our natural breath kind of has this balance between the two. But if we are feeling a bit more on the side of stress, we can think about having that out breath being a second or 2 longer than our in breath, just to put a little bit more balance, kind of contradicting what our body is doing as we're revving up, and just kind of consciously trying to slow it down a little bit, right? So that's something too, if you're trying to be a bit more subtle about things in the moment. There's also something called a physiological sigh, which sort of tricks your body into like this really big yawn, because it's sometimes hard to just like yawn on command. But yawning kind of similarly does that big like sigh in and like big sigh out for that relaxation. And so for a physiological sigh, it's like 2 big in breaths and 1 sighing out breath. So it's like your first inhale is like as big as you can, and then there's like a second one just to like finish off anything that you kind of missed the first time, and then you like release it. So let's all try this together. I'm gonna do it 2 times in case you want to watch me the first time and try it the second time. It goes so that can kind of feel good sometimes too. You can't always do that in the middle of a conversation, but perhaps after a conversation or as before you go into a conversation that you know might be kind of stressful, doing that physiological side can help with that as well. There's a ton of other ones. If you're interested in other types, I don't want to take up all of our time, which we could totally do just on different breathing techniques. You can do that. Some involve like humming. So even just breathing in and out with like a hum on your out breath, like hmm, there's something kind of about that vibration too that adds to it. But yeah, there's a whole bunch out there. So, but those are a handful to get you started. The breath, again, sometimes when we're starting to get a bit overwhelmed, trying to control our breath feels more panicky and more anxiety producing because our breath doesn't want to be controlled in that moment. And then all of a sudden it's just like that much more stressful. So there are ways that we can have some regulation without worrying about our breath. And again, totally normal and fine if this is where you find yourself some days. So there's other grounding things, kind of grounding into our present moment. One can be as simple as everybody put your feet on the ground. Like nice and solidly, like really feeling both bottoms of your feet on the ground beneath you, and really focusing all your attention on that groundedness. And you can even put a hand on your chest, kind of over your heart space like this, at the same time, and just kind of have another level of kind of a restorative grounding feeling. We can also do a color rainbow in our environment, which really helps us bring us into our present, where they're so looking for like something red. Let's all do this. I'm going to assume that you're just doing this with me. So looking for something red in your environment. And then looking for something orange. Something yellow. Something green. Something blue. And something purple. You may notice sometimes when you get overwhelmed or stressed, it's kind of easy to get sort of like narrow vision. And so even doing a color rainbow can do a few things, like putting us into the present moment. This is what my surroundings are. But it also just the eye movement can be helpful, kind of scanning your surroundings to kind of break us out of that kind of narrow focus as well. So that can be a good one. Another one that I'll mention too is similarly, but using like all of our senses. So kind of classic, going through your different five senses, starting with your hearing. So just to stop and to listen, take just like 10 seconds or so and put all of your focus and attention on what you're hearing in your environment. And maybe it's the sound of my voice that continues to talk. Maybe it's the air conditioning. I'll just give you like a few seconds to really listen to your environment. And sometimes we think we're in a quiet spot, and it is quiet, but there's like a little hum of something electrical or different things. And so we can just kind of really zero in on the hearing. And then we can go to the site and we can do a color rainbow for the visual. Or we can choose to find someone or something that is neutral feeling. So it's not causing us any anxiety. Or if we have the opportunity, if there's like a person or thing that actually gives us positive feelings, like maybe there's a friend or somebody, like a colleague that you feel more safe with, you can like look at them and say like, okay, yes, like here's a safe person. But it can also be neutral too. Like there's a Kleenex box, right? Like there's no harm, there's no threat here, right? So it's just kind of having that visual as well. And then smelling. Sometimes there's smells in our vicinity and just kind of taking a deep breath and maybe if like really controlling our breathing isn't working for us, but just taking kind of one deep breath in and out through our nose can be helpful, just really trying to focus less on controlling our breath and more just one deep breath and seeing if there's any kind of odors or smells in the air. Generally, we probably don't have a lot of taste sensations just as we're sitting, but if you do have like gum or a mint or a candy just to pop in your mouth, sometimes that can be helpful too, just to kind of distract your brain or ground you in a different way. And then our external sensations, we can really think again about like the floor underneath our feet, the chair underneath our butt, if we're like, leaning forward on something and our elbows touching, just all the places in our body where we are feeling sensations on the outside. There is also internal sensations that we can feel too. It can be a little bit trickier if we're feeling a little bit upset because sometimes we don't want to be as in the moment, like really melding with our feelings of anxiety. And we are trying to kind of just for the moment distract ourselves from it so that we can deal with whatever we need to deal with, maybe coming back to the feeling later when we're in a place that we can do it a bit more safely. But having that external sense at the very least for this kind of moment kind of works. If you're going into like a full panic attack, sometimes these can work, but sometimes there's again not foolproof, but a couple of things that people have noticed can be helpful are if you take a lemon and you cut it into slices and you like or like wedges and you bite into the juicy part of a lemon. That for some people that can kind of help, or cold. So putting like a cold compress on your chest or splashing your face with cold water, taking a cold shower, these kinds of things. If um, if you're kind of needing something quick and available in the moment, could be something to try. So again, I would practice whichever ones you remember of these over the next few days in times that are less stressful, so you can kind of start to get used to them. Because when you are in a moment of feeling more reactive, and you want to be able to tune that down so you can act more of your integrity in a maybe a client situation or something, you don't have to stop and think in that moment because your brain is not going to be interested in thinking about that. But if it's more kind of in your muscle memory, it'll come up a little bit faster and easier. So that would be hopefully something kind of helpful short term. Any questions on this part before we move into sort of like longer term daily practices?
I don't see
Right,
anything in
Johanna.
the chat right now.
No, yep, no
Okay,
questions. Sorry, I couldn't find my
very good.
microphone.
No, that's all good. And I didn't know if people would take a minute to kind of write something, so that's all good. Um, Pretty straightforward. So the next section I want to get into is mindfulness. And you probably have heard mindfulness and meditation, maybe kind of used interchangeably, or similarly. Um, does anybody know the difference between mindfulness and meditation, or could you articulate maybe the difference between the two? We can think about it for a minute. So mindfulness is sort of the goal, what we're trying to cultivate in our day-to-day lives, where we're living more in the present moment than we are always thinking about the past or always worrying about the future, that we can more and more often live in the present moment, the here and now, with compassionate curiosity, um, which is yeah, something that I'll talk about, I guess, in a minute here. So that kind of compassionate curiosity in the present moment. And so then meditation then is like the practice that we can do each day to try to strengthen our mindfulness muscle of our brain, right? So we want mindfulness, and we can certainly be more intentional in practicing that in our day to day. But it gets stronger faster if we also have a meditation practice of some kind. Now you might be thinking, "Ugh, meditation, gross, no, thank you." My brain just doesn't work like that, or whatever the case may be. So I just want to talk about meditation a little bit as sort of like a really broad intro with a few different practices styles that we can try out here again this afternoon. But essentially, if you think about like if you are somebody who plays an instrument, and you can think about like the concert as being sort of the day-to-day life mindfulness that we're practicing for. And then our meditation is what we do every day, like our scales and like whatever it is that we do to practice every day. Or like if you are an athlete, game day is sort of what we're shooting for. Every day we're going to the gym, we're doing push-ups, we're getting stronger, we're building up that muscle so that we can have the best opportunity we can on the field. And so that's kind of the relationship, I think, is a helpful way to think about it. But many of us think about meditation, we're like, "Ugh, I can't just sit there and have no thoughts for 20 minutes." But the good news is that, yeah, like almost nobody can sit down and have no thoughts for 20 minutes. And especially starting out, but um, yeah, so the goal isn't even to like try to sit down and have no thoughts. Like we're gonna sit and we always have a focus on something, right? And so classically, we might think about the breath being in the focus, right? You just sit and you just focus all your attention on your breathing and your breath and the feel of it and how your lungs expand and contract. And we're just really trying to focus only on this thing that grounds us into the present moment. And then our mind starts to wander and we think, "Oh, I'm so bad at this." I'm not doing this right. I can't just keep my mind clear. That's sort of like saying, I can never play volleyball because I went that one time having never played or practiced before, and I made a fool of myself because I couldn't hit the ball ever. It's like, yeah, sure, that probably happened, but if you want to, you could practice, and practice and practice, and then you could someday get to that point where you're in a game and you do really, really well. And so it's again just that idea of you're not doing it wrong, you're not bad at it, you just haven't had enough practice yet, right? And every time is you're sitting and you have your focal point, again, let's just say the breath as a starting point, and your mind wanders, and then you notice that your mind is wandering. Sometimes we have this moment where like, I'm so bad at this, or I'm such a jerk, or I'm like I can't do anything right, or whatever that self-talk is, right? So part of the beautiful thing about this practice is we are also practicing to give ourselves self-compassion at that point and grace to say like, this is just part of it, right? I'm not doing it wrong. I'm not a terrible person. I'm just noticing that I'm having a distracting thought. And then when I notice it, then I can bring it back to my breath or whatever it is. And so there's a great practice. We might notice, yep, I keep doing, I'm hard on myself when I notice my thoughts are wandering. And then I maybe just notice that I'm hard on myself that when my thoughts are wandering and to just like accept it and like, this is where I'm at today. Um, Notice it. And then over time, kind of starting to create space to have our thoughts be like that understanding, self-compassionate, grace-filled, like, oh yes, my mind is wandering. That is okay. That's part of what this whole thing is about. I'm doing it right, right? And then so your mind comes back. And every time that we have that moment of realize, so we're thinking of our focus and then our mind wanders, and then we realize our mind wanders, it's also that movement back is like a push-up in training. And so again, it's not doing it wrong. That is the practice. Like that is the exercise. That's strengthening our observing muscle in our brain. So usually we have like our thinking, analyzing. We're really good at that. But we also have a part of our brain that we can just observe with compassionate curiosity, without judgment. We're just observing it, right? And so like that's the muscle that we want to strengthen. And every time our mind wanders and we notice our mind wandering and bringing it back to the focal point, that is meditation because that is the work that strengthens your observing muscle in your mind, right? So you're doing it totally right. If you sit and meditate and your mind wanders and you bring it back, and your mind wanders and you bring it back, and your mind wanders and you bring it back, and your mind, it's just this constant, like, what did I just spend 20 minutes or 10 minutes of my life for? All I did was sit there. My mind was just wandering and I was just bringing it back to my breath. But like, I was mostly having my mind wander. That's like, you just had an amazing workout of like doing, 50 push-ups or something, right? But for your brain. So you're doing it right. So that's like the really good news, as we start out. It might still feel frustrating, but that's kind of another cool thing about meditation is that the goal, like was mentioned earlier, the emotions are still important. The goal of meditation isn't to just feel like serene all the time and nothing bothers you ever and you're always calm. Like that's actually not the goal of meditation either, because emotions are really important. In fact, I think in our daily life, we're more often subject to trying to like numb our emotions or distract ourselves from our emotions. We're kind of dissociate our brain away from our body because so much of our emotions are very connected with body sensations, right? And we just don't want to feel it because it's uncomfortable. And so we do all these other things to try not to feel, or at least feel things we don't want to feel because they're uncomfortable. But the practice of meditation is to try to change our relationship with our thoughts and feelings rather than trying to like exile them away, kick them out, say they're bad, feel like they're bad, right? We're just allowing what is and observing them. And so it actually can help us to be able to sit in discomfort more easily because we're like practicing, like I can sit in this terrible feeling of uncertainty, right? Or like I can just sit in this. And so it's the practice of meditation helps us to just be present with ourselves, including our bodily sensations, our emotional sensations, and just like I'm not dying from them. I can handle this, right? This is okay. And yeah, so just to really, as we begin to and kind of set up kind of our parameters of this, yeah, we're if anything, the goal is to be more in touch with our emotions, for what they really are and honoring them, acknowledging them, listening to them, seeing what they have to tell us, um, versus trying to just like squish them away. All right, so that's probably enough of me talking again for a moment, and I think it would be good to start practicing. As we begin, let's just close our eyes for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and just notice your chatter in your brain. And it's funny because whenever I try to do this and I'm like intentionally listening for what my brain is about to say, that's usually when it's the most blank because it's like I'm waiting for it to say something. I don't know. You might have the same experience, you might not. So I'll give like a full 15 seconds, and maybe it's a thought, and maybe it's a feeling, maybe it's like uncertainty or boredom or like who knows what kind of like uncomfortable feelings. Again, and they're totally fine. Don't feel like you have to feel good things. We're just seeing what actually is there. And if it's something that is more uncomfortable, that is like just allow it and welcome it, right? So let's just kind of have that 15 seconds and just notice what is in your internal world. All right, you can open your eyes again. Hopefully that gives you just like a first peek into the fact that you are an observer into your internal world. I drew a picture. I didn't have a PowerPoint, but I did draw a picture. Oh, you can't even. This is a terrible idea. No, that's fine. I'm clearly not good at this. Basically, what that picture was a circle that was like a pond with different fish in it and like seaweed and like all the little ecosystems of a pond. And then there was a little X on the outside as if somebody was sitting on the edge of the pond, like watching all the different like aspects of the ecosystem. And so that's kind of the idea that hopefully you caught a glimpse of as we just sat and did that 15 seconds, that you are the one who can observe everything going on within you, right? Your thoughts, your emotions, and that they come and go, much like a pond, right? Sometimes a fish of whatever emotion gets very big, and sometimes something dies off, and sometimes things interact differently with each other. And we have different parts of us, right? That kind of interact with different parts are stronger at some moments than others. And so it's just like again strengthening that ability to be the observer, watching, so that we can honor what's going on without like freaking out about it too much or over identifying with each individual part. Um, yeah. So let's try some different styles because you might be thinking, there's no way I'm just going to sit down and listen to my breathing, for half an hour. The good news is even 10 minutes a day of meditation um, is enough to really start seeing improvements in your sense of well-being and can reduce feelings of like depression or anxiety. Um, and so like the benefits of meditation can start again with just as little as like 10 minutes a day. I think for like 4 weeks is like where they tested it and they're like, yep, there's even benefits for people at this kind of first step into it. So you don't have to start out like 30 minutes or nothing. Start with 10 minutes, right? And try different times of the day and just kind of play around with how you might connect this habit with like other things in your life. So maybe it's like, oh, it works pretty well for me to like brush my teeth, wash my face, meditate for 10 minutes, and then go to sleep. So like stick it into a place in your schedule where you already are doing something that's like a daily habit. And then just kind of play around with it and see what works and what doesn't work. Um, so the breathing one is something that is classic, right? Let's just do 1 minute of breathing and having our breath be our focus. Just to kind of have that as a baseline, because it is so classic. And for some of you, you might really just enjoy it. So let's not skip past it. I'm going to set my stopwatch or my timer for 1 minute. And so the idea is we are just going to try to focus on our breathing. Um, Again, the sensation of it, the feel of it kind of going through our throat. We might feel our lungs and our ribs sort of expanding and contracting. We might try to think about our stomach, like we have a balloon in our stomach and we're trying to fill that balloon. And so we feel more of a rise and fall within our belly breathing. Maybe we feel the air kind of passing through our nostrils or the sound of it. Lots of aspects of breathing that you can focus on. And again, when your mind wanders, which it totally is going to, even in a minute, don't notice if you're hard on yourself about your mind wandering, and maybe just remind yourself that this is part of the practice and that you're actually doing it correctly. When you do notice your mind wandering and then bringing it back in. You might be daydreaming the entire minute and then you only realize that your mind is wandering when the bell rings. Again, self-compassion is always the beginning. That's just where you're starting out today. And that's perfectly fine too. So it's all good, whatever your experience is. I'm setting my timer. Let's just try to focus on our breath for 1 minute and go. We're halfway there. Do you all hear my gong? It gonged, if you didn't hear it. Some of my meditation teachers, when I've taken Zoom classes, they don't have like the gong and they'll just go gong, which for some reason I always think is really funny, but I also feel kind of awkward doing it. So I'm going to try to use my timer and hopefully you can hear it. So I would love to know how that was for you, which is kind of tricky in a group like this, but if you want to use the chat box, and again, it doesn't have to be great. You don't have to love this one. Um, you might not like it, but if you were to keep trying it, you might develop a love for it, or you just will always hate it, and that's perfectly fine too. Like we're in meditation, we don't strive for achieving certain results. We part of it is just like allowing things to be just what they are, right? So much in life we try to like control things or wish they were different. And so part of it too is just creating a mindset of like just letting things be as they are, and seeing them for what they actually are, um, and just really accepting, um, and um, not everything has to be great all the time, right? We can appreciate when things aren't. That's just great too. Another one is a body scan. So we're gonna try this one too, and I'm gonna guide us through it. You may have done a body scan before. They're not uncommon. Um, there's actually different ways to do a body scan too. Um, one of the ways is just to simply notice, which is fantastic. Again, really creating that observation mind muscle. And you just going from basically your toes, and then you just observe your feet and how they feel, any like tingling or heat or warmth, up through your ankles. Is there tension? You don't, not like fixing anything, or you're just noticing, right? Like just noticing the body sensations of every part of your body, really going one bit at a time, up top to bottom or bottom to top. There's another way, similarly, of going through each muscle group, kind of toes up to top, and like squeezing the muscle and then relaxing it. And then you go to the next muscle group and then you squeeze it and then you relax it, right? And so that can actually be really relaxing as a whole also. So that's another way you can do it. The way that we're going to do it today is we're going to add in gratitude, because gratitude is an excellent practice as well, and one that can be tied in to this one in kind of a fun way. So as I lead us through, I'm going to just name like our body parts as we go through. And there'll be the element of observation and just seeing like how it feels. Is it tingly? Is it numb? Is it dense? Is it kind of airy? Is it, just sort of like what are the sensations? But then we're also going to think of in your own head something that you're grateful for each of these body parts, particularly like the practical aspects of what they do for you. And so being grateful for your big toes, or like your toes that, they help you to walk or run, or they keep your balance. If you come across a body part that doesn't work for you, either at all or not in the way that you want it to, or that you have an injury and you have like sad memories around the injury and how your knee always hurts now, or just anything where you have more of a complicated relationship and it's really hard to feel gratitude towards that spot, that is okay, right? You don't have to force gratitude for something, if you're just not ready to feel that or acknowledge that. And maybe at that point, just acknowledge, maybe, you don't have mobility in your legs. And so as we go through your legs, we're just acknowledging the grief, or we're acknowledging the regret or sadness, or, wherever you're actually feeling about them is also good. Um, but if there are things that are neutral or maybe just a little bit frustrating, but not like very, like really heavy, but we can maybe think of like, oh, it's, I my eyes, right? Like I don't see very well. I need contacts. And so yeah, I wish that I'd be more grateful if, that they could see properly without glasses or contacts, but I'm so grateful that I can see, and I'm they still with some assistance, I am still able to see. And I'm then also grateful for optometry and the technology of today, medical technology. And so there are some things where you might not be like, yes, I love my, whatever. Um, but we can find something that we love about it. Other things we can just acknowledge. I really can't find anything to be grateful for this body part, and that is okay. I can just acknowledge that grief or whatever that feeling is, and that can be part of it too. Okay, I overtalked it, but I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page, that can all kind of get through this in different ways. So let's close our eyes once more, and let's take a deep breath in and out, just to kind of settle ourselves in a bit. And if you'd prefer to have your eyes open and an unfocused gaze in front of you, if that feels better, that's always fine too. Let's just take a moment to settle in. And then let's start with our toes. First, feeling the sensations there, maybe the ground against the bottoms of our toes, how they feel in our shoes and our socks, the temperature. And then if we have anything to be grateful for our toes, let's do so now. And moving into our feet. Similarly, just thinking about the sensations, putting all of our focus on the sensations on the bottom of our feet and the top of our feet. And thinking if there's anything we could be grateful for about them. And up through our ankles, feeling the sensations and gratitude. We try to be as specific as we can about the gratitude if it's there for us. And our lower legs, our shins, and our calves. Can we feel the pants or skirts, the fabric? Or internally, maybe there's tension somewhere. And is there anything to be grateful for? And going up through our knees, we may feel some more aches or pains here. To acknowledge that. Feel any feelings that arise. Allowing emotions as well as the physical sensations. And if there's any gratitude there. And then our upper legs, our thighs, and what they do for us, if they do anything for us. Maybe there's blood pumping through them that helps to circulate through our body, even if we can't use them as well. And up through our butt and hips. Different sensations as we're sitting. And gratitude. And now it gets a little more interesting as we come up into our torso, because we have a lot of body sensations that can be associated with emotions. And so now we're thinking about our external sensations. Maybe our back is against our chair. And so we can feel our shirt on our skin. We also have internal body sensations, like maybe kind of tingling in our chest or a pressure on our stomach or a temperature, a density, a spaciousness. Then we also may experience an emotion to go with the body experience or the body sensation as well. So let's take just a moment and really think about how our body is feeling in our torso area. Starting with our stomach, scanning up through kind of our lower ribs, solar plexus, sternum, outsides, inside, our edges, middle, through our chest. Lots of organs in there to be grateful for as well. Again, maybe a mixed relationship with different organs, but just kind of discover your feelings about them and if there's anything we can be grateful for. And then up in our shoulders, place where we may carry a lot of tension. Just notice any tightness or whatever the sensation is. And being grateful or finding something if it's there to be grateful for. Or whatever other emotions come up. Down into our upper arms. Our elbows. Our lower arms. We can think of times where we maybe held babies or hugged family or friends. So it's not just our capability, it's also our relationships. But again, maybe we don't have mobility in our arms, and so we have a different way of showing that care in relationships too. Going down through our wrists. All the many bones in our wrists. Into our hands. And our fingers. Maybe even our fingernails. And up through our neck, our throat, back of our neck, and the muscles there. Not only does our neck area help us to function with our breath and our chewing and swallowing, but also our speaking. Perhaps we like to sing. And then up through our jaw and chin. Going through each part of our face. There's potentially a lot to be grateful for. with our different senses, but also potential for a lot of grief if we've lost ability in any of our senses. And up to the top of our head. Let's take a deep breath in and out. We can slowly open our eyes once more. All right. So we'll kind of slowly come out of there. It's very possible that you're feeling sleepier after that. Not necessarily, if that's not you, you're not doing it wrong. It's just fine. If you are feeling a bit sleepy, two things. One, uh, this could be if you are somebody who struggles with sleeping, doing this as you're laying in bed, trying to go to sleep at night, whether it's the grief and gratitude version, or if it's a version that's just like noticing and observing and or relaxing our muscles. It can be a helpful one for sleeping. Also, if you want to wake yourself up, but you don't want to have coffee this late in the day, there's something called bellows breathing, which you don't have your cameras on, so you could totally try it with me and not be embarrassed. So what you do is we also call it like chicken, like the chicken breathing. And so you have your hands up in your armpits. Um, Probably like blow your nose first, because you want to make sure we're breathing through our nose so we don't pass out. But you have your arms, we're gonna do like this chicken thing. Also, so as we put our elbows down, we breathe out. We breathe in as our elbows come up. And if you want to be really extra, you can also stand and crouch a little bit every time you breathe out. And it goes about this fast. Are you ready? So I'm breathing out, 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 in, like this, right? Don't do it more than like 2 minutes because it's kind of intense and you'll probably have to catch your breath after. And if you feel lightheaded, just like be aware of that, right? Stop if you're feeling like you're gonna pass out. But it's like a really cool way of like getting kind of like energy back into your system without being on like a caffeine overload. Probably not something you can do like in the middle of a class or a presentation as you're trying to sit there nicely, but if you need to take like a bathroom break and then do it in like the bathroom style, it could maybe work that way too. So that's a good one. I'm assuming that you're all trying it wherever you are, in your offices or homes or whatever. It's kind of fun. If you can't do the legs part, it's not a problem. Just doing the top half too, it's perfectly good. There are some meditations too, if you're like, I just can't sit for that long. 10 minutes, focusing on something is hard. That's all good too. So there are some movement meditations as well. Classically, you might be thinking of like yoga. That's a really great one to use the whole yoga practice as a meditation. And so really keeping your focus on your body movements as well as like your breathing. As you're doing your movements, there's a lot of movements where you kind of match one breath with one movement. And so it really lends to focusing on just our breath and our body movements and things. And like, how is my body feeling right now? What's arising in me? Am I competing with the person next to me? Am I, feeling judgmental about how I should look, but I'm not looking that way? And it's just like a really great opportunity for some of these practices of awareness and observation and really non-judgmental, like just seeing what's there, right? Without judgment, but even with a bit of compassion. There's also like a walking meditation, which is different than walking mindfully, which if we like walking our dogs outside or like, going for a walk, we can walk in a mindful way where we're like really noticing nature around us and the trees and the people, and we're just really in the present moment. That's fantastic. I love doing that myself. But there's also meditative walking where you're just walking so slowly, like embarrassingly slowly. You wouldn't like do it out in public, probably. It's literally like you probably can't see very well, but it's like you put your foot up into the air and then you like slowly bring it down. You feel like the floor underneath your heel. It's like really focusing on your body sensations of really slow walking. So then it's like the whole bottom of your foot. And then now I'm slowly raising my other leg and I'm kind of like balancing as I'm going slowly. And then the next foot stepping down. It's really that slow, right? And so it's just focusing so much on the body sensations of like a very slow walk. So that could also be something interesting. Um, so body scan is a way to focus on like different parts, but you're kind of moving around more. There's another way we can focus on some like sort of like giving a dog a bone a little bit, where it's like giving your mind a bone, something to chew on. It's Gatha. Um, Gatha, I think, comes from, I think Thich Nhat Hanh in Vietnam sort of made this one more popular. It's basically putting a phrase, a little bit different than a mantra. You can use a mantra, which is a bit more classic of like one word or like a repeated word over and over again. This is more of like a phrase, and it can be like one phrase as you breathe in and one phrase as you breathe out, or it could be a series of phrases. Like classically, it might be I am breathing in, and then I am breathing out. I'm feeling calm. I'm in the present moment. And then I think there's, a couple more. Like I'm like, this is a great moment. This is a happy moment. And so you can have like six. So it's like you're really not just going back and forth between your inhale phrase and your exhale phrase, but there's like several for like different inhales and exhalations, and you just kind of keep doing those ones over and over again. Um, but you can, I think it's maybe just a bit easier because I'm always distracted by like, okay, what do I say next again? Um, it can be a little bit simpler if it's just the like one phrase in and one phrase out. And it could be as simple and straightforward as I am breathing in, I am breathing out. But you may find that there is a phrase that you are trying to create a new neural pathway for. Like maybe you would have like harsher self-talk and you're trying to be more self-compassionate. So maybe you pick up a phrase like, um, I am loved on your in breath and I'm doing the best I can on my out breath, right? And having that just sort of over and over, even if you don't believe it at this point, a daily practice of having it over and over again can start to kind of trick your brain into a new neural pathway that you do eventually kind of start to identify with. Or maybe you're in a situation where it's like having like, I am safe for an inhale. I am at peace for an exhale. If you have a particular faith tradition, maybe it's like a phrase of like a text like from the Psalms or different, holy books or things, and kind of incorporating a faith practice into it. It's an easy way to incorporate that in as well. And maybe different days, you just need to like tell yourself different things. And so that's can be kind of a nice practice too of like, what do I need for myself today? And it can be some good self-care of like reflection and like, how do you care for yourself in that way? Or it could be something where you just know you need to work on, and it's just like every single day, I'm doing the same kind of phrase mantra, right? So let's just try that for a minute. We won't spend a lot of, oh, I have 3 minutes left. I'm gonna let you do that one at home. Give it a try. The two more that I just want to like talk about. One I wish that I could go through with you. It's like guided imagery. And if you were to just like Google a guided imagery meditation, you'd find one. But basically, it's the idea of going into like one of your favorite places, whether it's an actual place like your grandma's house or just a general place like the ocean. Um, Wherever you choose to be in that moment, and then you just kind of go through like all of your senses in that place. So going through what are you hearing and giving yourself time to really hear all the things. What am I seeing? What are as many details as I can? Smells. Is somebody with me? Am I holding their hand? Am I sitting? What's the temperature? Is there wind in my face? So it's like as many details, like sensory as you can, and just like being in that space is a favorite for many people. And then also eating, right? Really classically, like really slowly. Again, there's mindful eating, but there's also meditative eating where you're really going slowly with one bite essentially, and you're looking at it, you're smelling it. Usually doesn't have a sound, but you're like really examining it with all of your senses, and then you eat it, and then you're really like holding it. You're not like chewing it up very fast. You're just like allowing it, tasting it, feeling the sensation in your mouth. How does it feel swallowing? Like it's just like super slow version of like eating a thing. Um, and I don't know if there's 1 minute left, so I should probably stop there and see if there's any questions in the last minute. So I should have left more time.
Anyone have any questions? If you do, you can just come off mute instead of typing it in the chat. We'll go faster.
And similar to the kind of short-term regulation things, if there's one or two or three that stick out, try them. Again, sort of that 10 minutes a day is enough to really start developing that observational brain. You don't have to love them all.
There was a lot of information in a short period of time.
Yeah, it's a bit of overload. Again, hopefully if there's like one short term and like one meditation style to practice and just hold on to those instead of trying to remember all of it, if there's anything that, or even just one from any part that kind of was like, I feel like I could remember to do this one thing and practice it each day, that would be great.
Sounds good.
And we did record this. My
Mm-hmm.
internet was kind of being wonky, so I got kicked off a couple times, but I believe Cheryl kept her computer on. So it was recorded and it will be posted on our website and also shared with if you are a registered attendee, it'll be sent out from Stacy as well. So be on the lookout for that. But to wrap it up, there's no questions in the chat box. Just a lot of thank yous and thanks for the great presentation. There were a few that really resonated with me for sure. So appreciated. So thank you, Rachel, for presenting on this. Again, for those that are still on, please be on the lookout for the survey and provide any feedback and topics that you'd like to see presented on. And then Rachel's with us next week as well, presenting on gratitude. So join us next week for that presentation. So with that, I think we will end and hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Thank you again, Rachel.